Okay, so I think we are all ready to start. So let me. Okay, great. Well, thank you everyone for joining this workshop today. Sports for Protection, Fostering Inclusion and Peace Through the Power of Sport. I wanted to start out from introducing yourselves, facilitators, as well as the guest speakers. My name is Megumi Aoyama. And I work at the UN Refugee Agency, UNHCR, in the Refugee Sport Coordination Team. So we work on sport partnerships as well as sport programs for displaced children and youth. We also have Philip joining us as a facilitator who supports the team. And today we actually have two wonderful guest speakers in our workshop. Jonas Kinde, who is a refugee athlete who competed in the 2016 Rio de Janeiro Olympics in the men's marathon as part of the refugee Olympic team. We also have Tamali joining from the Kiziba refugee camp in Rwanda, who works as a young coach in her community. And we will introduce them a little bit further in the second half of the workshop, but we are very excited to have these two joining us today. So what is today's workshop about? Today, we'll be looking at using sport as a tool to foster peace and inclusion, because for children and youth uprooted by war persecution, sport is actually much more than just a fun or leisure activity. It's really an opportunity to be included and protected, a chance to heal, develop, and grow. So we hope through this workshop, you'll be able to develop a deeper understanding on this role that sport can play in supporting displaced children and youth, as well as become familiar with some of the examples of sports for protection approach, and gain inspiration from the great guest speakers we have today, and possibly think about how you could also become an agent of change by using sport in your community. So we will briefly look at the current situation of displaced population for children and youth, especially on the protection and risk challenges that they face. Then we will go into introducing the sports for protection approach with a couple of examples. And then the second half of the workshop, we'll invite our guest speakers to share their experience. So let's get started. And we wanted to start this by a little quiz that we prepared. So if everyone could actually use your phone or a tablet or different tab on your PC and access www.menti.com and enter the code 149464. So we will give you a little bit of time to do this. Okay, and I am going to switch my screen to this. I'm seeing comments that you're having trouble hearing. But when you do experience any problems, we were also told that it's good to hit the refresh button. Philip, can you hear me? Okay, great. So I'm going to go back sharing the screen. And can everyone please go to menti.com and use the code 149464. So you should be able to see some questions that we prepared for you. Is everyone ready? So the first question is, what are some of the reasons people are forced to flee from their homes? And you can answer this question from your phone or your tablet or from your PC if you go to menti.com and enter the code 149464. I hope it's working. Okay, so we have violence as one of the answers. Anyone else? I hope everyone can participate. If you can go to www.menti.com and you can use the code 149464. So great, we have a couple of people participating. Yes, persecution, violence, war. Okay, let's try a next question. So over the past decade, the number of people displaced doubled, stayed the same, declined. What do you guys think? So we're getting good answers. Yes, the correct answer is doubled. I think everyone got that one right. So the next question, how many people are forcibly displaced in the world as of end of 2019? So we have 60 million, 70 million, 80 million. What do you guys think? We have mixed answers here. So the correct answer we'll share later in our presentation. Next question. So this talks about how long refugees are in displaced situations. 1 in 5 refugees have been in displacement situations that have lasted how many years or more? 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. What do you guys think? Okay, so the correct answer is actually 20 years, which is quite a long time and really surprising. The fifth question, so out of the total displaced persons, what percentage is children under the age of 18? 20%, 30%, 50%? Okay, so we have a couple of people guessing 30%. And 50%. So the correct answer is 50%. So out of the total displaced persons, 50% are children under the age of 18. And last question we wanted to ask you is, what are some of the risks or challenges you think displaced youth and children face? Good one, stereotyping, yes. Anybody else? Culture clashes, lack of education, yes. Poor living conditions. No, these are really important risks and challenges that everyone is inputting, and we will go a little bit deeper into this in our presentation. So let's go back to my screen here. And we wanted to share this video with you that really looks at the current situation and trends of the forcibly displaced population in the world. So hopefully this will work.
لما كانوا عم يقصفوا كان في يجي كتير صوت تبع لما كانوا يقصفوا كان يجي صوت يعني كان بيخوف.
Yo no me imaginé que hubiera tanta gente saliendo del país.
لقد فقدت منزلي، فقدت سعادة عيالي وسعادتي.
Each of these voices is unique, but their experience is shared with 1% of the people on this planet. For the first time, 1% of humanity is now uprooted, forced to flee their homes in what for many becomes a long and harrowing search for safety. Today, we count 79.5 million people who are now displaced, wrenched from their homes by violence, persecution, conflict, and the violation of human rights. This is nearly twice as many as a decade ago, according to statistics compiled by the UN Refugee Agency from 2010 to 2019. 26 million of them are refugees, but the majority of those forced to flee are still living inside their own countries. The scale of the numbers defies our imagination. Consider this: 100 million people have been displaced in the past decade. The uprooted are victims of a world in conflict, and they pay an incalculable cost.
Bébé la parmi stara fangati via pa sama nimba meya nya bu sitaba of tower.
Renata fled an attack on her village in Burkina Faso, where close to 500,000 people fled due to insecurity in 2019 alone. Mushtaba from Afghanistan found safety in Greece, but brought the trauma of war with him.
بعد فکر این یه جوری بود که من حتی شبا میخوابیدم خواب میدیدم، کابوس میدیدم، استرس خیلی داشتم.
أنا عمري 11 بس بحس حالي عمري 100 إنه حسب الشيء الحال اللي نحن فيها، يعني بدي أعين أهلي، بدي أعين أخواتي، يعني ما لهم غيري يعني كبيرة.
Namat is from Syria, which 9 years into its war is still the world's biggest displacement crisis. In fact, 5 countries account for 2/3 of people displaced across borders: Syria, Venezuela, Afghanistan, South Sudan, and Myanmar. And half of them are children. Displaced children often lack access to education. They are exposed to violence and exploitation, and too many face dangers alone. In 2019, UNHCR counted more than 150,000 child refugees who were unaccompanied by or separated from their families. Africa's Sahel region is a growing hotspot as violence spreads from Mali to Niger, Burkina Faso, and beyond. 80% of the forcibly displaced reside in countries grappling with food insecurity and the extremes of climate change. More hardship awaits them. So why do the numbers keep going up? For those fleeing conflict and persecution, options to rebuild their lives are limited. Opportunities for resettlement in another country fall far short of needs, while fewer refugees are able to return home safely. Tens of millions of people remain in exile for years on end, in countries and communities that are often poor and struggling themselves. Even so, there is hope. We are joining forces to respond to refugee crises together, governments alongside aid groups, the private sector and civil society, and with refugees themselves. We need to bolster inclusion in work and schools. And we must protect asylum, as it protects the most fragile among us.
I feel like I go back home. Yes, this is my home because I feel this is my home.
In a world grappling with a global health pandemic, we are reminded of how interconnected we are, that the safety of one is linked to the safety of us all. It is a time for solidarity, still, now, and more than ever before.
Okay, great. So, Philip, did you want to maybe highlight a couple of important facts that came up in the video?
Yes, thanks, Megumi. So here's some images to highlight the statistics which were just shown in the video. So forced displacement has almost doubled since 2010, going from 41 million then to 79.5 million now. If these 79.5 million people were all in one country, it would actually be the world's 20th biggest country. And actually, 68% come from just 5 countries, which are Syria, Venezuela, Afghanistan, South Sudan, and Myanmar. 85% live in developing countries, generally a country neighboring the one they just fled from. And these countries are oftentimes already poor with limited resources and capacity, which only underlines that, you know, every country should be more involved in solutions to share the responsibility of hosting refugees globally. Shockingly, nearly 50% of these forcibly displaced are children under the age of 18. And this is equivalent to the populations of Denmark, Mongolia, and Australia all combined. So children are among the most vulnerable victims of displacement and often the most in need. Now, let's have a look at some of the key challenges that displaced children face. So a lot of the displaced children are distressed, depressed, and suffer from mental health issues stemming from a separation from their families and living in isolation. So oftentimes they have limited access to formal education, such as schools or universities, or even informal recreational activities such as sports, leaving them without a safe and supportive environment. This leaves children more vulnerable to abuse, neglect, and exploitation, as well as sexual gender-based violence.
So I also now wanted to highlight some of the key challenges for displaced youth. And when we talk about youth or adolescents, this is the age group of 15 to 24. And this is actually the age group that is, you know, most neglected in humanitarian settings. This is because when they turn 15, 18, they age out. So they are no longer afforded the additional protection, support that they benefited from when they were a child, but they still need the guidance and assistance and access to protection as well as rights. Oftentimes, displaced youth have poor access to youth-sensitive healthcare, such as reproductive health, as well as psychosocial support. And they are excluded from communities or disengaged. They have very limited access also to post-primary education, as well as job or livelihood opportunities. And without the right to work or with no certainty for any kind of solutions in the future, young people are often unable to plan their future life for themselves and have really described their lives being in a state of limbo. Now, this all leads to their increased risk of facing trafficking or forced recruitment into armed groups. They engage in harmful coping strategies such as substance or drug abuse, survival sex, or child marriage. And oftentimes, also displaced youth are vulnerable to discrimination, xenophobia, or harassment. We also wanted to make note that actually the impact of COVID-19 and the pandemic has increased the vulnerability of displaced children and youth. They're faced with further risk of violence, domestic violence, sexual and emotional violence as the result of the COVID-19 quarantine. Also, schools, recreational activities, sport clubs that oftentimes offered them a protective environment has halted. And this disruption in this daily routine has added psychosocial distress on displaced children and youth. So we're really carefully monitoring the situation and looking for ways to support and mitigate this additional challenges that displaced children and youth are facing in the face of pandemic. But where does sport come in, and why sports? So we wanted to introduce you to the sports for protection approach. Why sports? Well, sports, first of all, is fun, right? It brings joy, laughter, relief from your daily stresses or challenges. But also, it's a very important tool to meaningfully engage children and youth and bring children and youth together. It also creates this unique connecting force. So I think if you played sports before, you would know that it has this connecting force, a bonding force to create friendships, but also foster respect and mutual understanding for each other, which leads to a very safe and supportive environment that children and youth can be part of. It also is a place where you have opportunities to build individual skills and capacities, to learn about teamwork or responsibility within your team, or learn about leadership. And lastly, sport is a great place where you can also find role models or mentors from your peers, coaches, and other significant adults. And this is why UNHCR, along with other humanitarian organizations, as well as with sport organizations, we're looking to tap into this enormous potential that sport has to help displaced communities, to protect them and improve their lives in innovative ways. So we use sports to motivate children and youth to create this environment so that young people can shape their own futures, enhance their well-being, both physically and mentally, but also acquire valuable life skills along the way. So let's look at a couple of key areas where sports could make a difference.
So through impactful events such as violence and war, and especially children and young people have the risk of experiencing stress and depression. So for these people, sport can really help to heal from the after effects of such impactful events by restoring normalcy and giving displaced youth a place to develop physically and emotionally with others. Sport not only gives them a place to relieve stress physically, but also offers displaced people a distraction from the difficulties of everyday life, providing a mental relief as well. This, in turn, increases positive mental well-being by improving the mood, concentration, and self-confidence, and helps these young people thrive. So another thing sport can do is that it can create safe spaces for displaced children and youth. So sports facilities and activities, be it schools, youth and community centers, or child-friendly areas and camps and settlements, give children and youth a safe environment where they can feel both safe physically and emotionally. Safe spaces give them a chance to practice their sport in a designated area, allowing them to feel safe emotionally by feeling included and respected, and not having to worry about the perceptions of other people. This helps reduce the risk of their recruitment into illegal or dangerous activities and negative coping mechanisms as well, such as drugs or violence. And for groups which are especially vulnerable, such as girls and young women and young people with disabilities, these safe spaces to meet and play can give them a break and provide protection from sexual violence and neglect. Here we have an example of a safe space created for girls by UNHCR, the Olympic Refuge Foundation, as well as the Lutheran World Foundation in Kakuma refugee camp in Kenya. So Kakuma Divas League was established in 2017 after the need for an all-inclusive women's league to play football. And the aim of this project was to increase girls' participation in sport and really provide them with a safe and supportive environment that nurtures their talent and facilitates girls to feel more empowered in the community. So how was this safe environment created? The safe environment was created by providing gender-specific sports materials and equipment, such as training bras, to enable trainings and participation in matches, which was previously lacking, and it was also preventing girls from participating in sports. And another way a safe environment was created was through mentors to upcoming players who facilitated peer support and initiated guidance sessions before trainings regarding topics such as reproductive health, challenges girls encounter, and the guidance on handling these issues. And this then made girls in the camp feel a lot more comfortable and safe in joining this project. So now the Kakuma Divas League has 10 teams comprised of 300 players, which is actually a 50% increase in participation.
Yes, I think maybe it was just my technical issue, but you've mentioned that it's amazing with, so many girls being part of the league, and I think you were going to introduce this quote from one of the project participants.
Okay, great, thank you. So here we have a quote from Yomi Jima, who is a project participant in the Kakuma Divas League, and she said that my participation In KK Stars and the wins I have achieved in the process have literally revolutionized my family's perception about women and sports, particularly soccer. So this quote really underlines how women in the camp feel more empowered through sports and how the perceptions of the community also changed, allowing girls to feel more comfortable while engaging in sports both mentally and physically.
Great. So another area where sport can really make a difference is helping to reduce tensions. Now, in refugee camps or refugee settings, many refugees are coming from different countries, backgrounds, culture, ethnic group. In some camps, refugees are coming from almost 10 to 20 different countries. And oftentimes this leads to tensions amongst the groups. But also, refugees sometimes experience tensions with host communities where they face discrimination or stereotyping that stems from lack of trust or fear of difference. And this is where sport can come in, because it allows people to focus on their similarities rather than the differences. So sport itself becomes this common interest, this commonality to bring people together, whether it's a mother dropping off your child to a sport practice, or watching a sport match together, or participating in a sporting event together. I mean, it really helps reduce conflict inside the camps, as well as to build bridges between host community members and refugees, and promote them peacefully living together. So one example I wanted to introduce was the project that we did along with the support of the Olympic Refuge Foundation and with our partners in Mexico. One of the pillars was peaceful coexistence. So what we did is that we built a youth club where local youth and refugee youth could come together to engage in sport activities, practice together. We had tournaments, basketball and football tournaments, where refugee youth and local youth played in mixed teams as one team. They also engaged in social work, such as refurbishing sports fields together or cleaning up public parks. And they also had opportunities to exchange cultural exchange activities. And this really helped these two groups to come together and start establishing trust and respect among each other. So some participants said, I learned to feel equal to others and value the teamwork. I love living together with other cultures, and I learned that we're all one team. And we really saw that it increased a sense of belonging of refugees into society, and really feeling that acceptance. The last area that we wanted to talk about is how sport can support education and life skills. And I placed a couple of statistics here, and I think we mentioned earlier that refugees, displaced children and youth have very limited access to formal education. So it's 63% for primary school. For secondary school, only 24% of refugee children are able to attend, and for university, it's only 3%. And in these situations where these opportunities are very, very limited, sport can act as a vehicle for learning vital life skills like communication, teamwork, respect, commitment, but also about social issues. And I have a picture here. This is a project that we did in Colombia, but after the sport activities, they come together and talk about a couple of issues that they're facing, how to promote healthy behavior, how to prevent HIV/AIDS, how to opportunity to learn more about access for them, about their human rights, and so on. And so it's really important that displaced children and youth get this opportunity to learn about these vital life skills, because they're immensely transferable. It can really help them to find jobs or pursue vocational training in coaching or instructing in the future. And one example we wanted to share is this Young Coach program. So this is a program that's implemented in partnership with the Sport Foundation and the Football Club Social Alliance. It's an alliance of 6 European football clubs. And what they do is that they have a professional football coach fly in to refugee camps, and they train young refugees to become grassroots football coaches and project facilitators. And these trained young coaches then implement sport activities and leisure activities in their community, which help increase safety and security of the children. This project and the program is implemented in countries such as Mexico, Lebanon, Uganda, Jordan. But for example, in Rwanda, it was implemented in 6 different refugee camps where 85 young refugees were trained to become young coaches and community leaders. And we are very lucky today because we have Tamali, who will be sharing her experience going through this program.
Yes. Hi. Tamali, do you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great, thank you. So exactly, I'd like to introduce our first guest speaker for today. As mentioned before, Tamali is a participant in the Young Coach program, and she will be joining us today from Kisiba Refugee Camp in Rwanda. So, Tamali, could you start out by telling us a little bit about yourself and your journey to Rwanda, please?
Ushobora gutangira utubwira ibikwiye kuri wowe ndetse n'urugendo rwawe ujya mu guhungira mu Rwanda.
Yego. Nitwa Nyirabimana Tamari, nkaba ndi impunzi, hamaze imyaka 25 mu buhunzi.
My name is Nyirahabimana Tamari. I'm a refugee. I've spent 25 years in displacement.
Nkaba mfite abana babiri ariko mbana n'ababyeyi.
I'm a single mother, but I still live with my parents. I'm a single mother of 2 children, but I still live with my parents.
Ikiyongereyeho nkaba ndi young coaches.
And I'm also a young coach.
Kubyerekeye kuza mu Rwanda ntabyo nziho ubumenyi bwinshi kuko naje ndi umwana mutoya ariko usibye bimwe na bimwe nkora ku babyeyi baje mu Rwanda bahunze intambara.
I fled in Rwanda as a toddler with my mother carrying me on the back. I don't know much about the flight route, but my parents told me that they fled persecution and fled to Rwanda.
Okay, thank you, Tamali, for telling us this journey of yours. So, the second question is, why did you choose to join the Young Coach program, especially as the only girl?
Kubera iki wahisemo kujya muri Young Coach muri no program ya Young Coach ndetse ukabona ijyamo ari we mukobwa wenyine?
Mu busanzwe nari nkora siporo nyikunda cyane. Program ije ngira amahirwe yo kugira ngo nongererwe ku byo nari nzi ndetse mbe n'icyitegererezo mu bandi bakobwa n'abashishikariza kuza muri siporo batitinya.
I was always passionate about sports and I was a coach, and when this program was introduced, I saw it as a unique opportunity to help me grow myself and develop the community, as well as inspire fellow girls to join sports.
Okay, thank you. And what would you say? What do you like the most about being a young coach?
Ese ni iki kintu kigushimisha kuba uri mu young coach?
Ikintu kinshimisha kuba ndi young coach nuko muri ibi bihe by'ubuhunzi ibikoresho bya siporo biba bikeya, noneho ukafata abana waba ufite abana benshi, ntabwo umuntu yarazi uburyo yabakavaringa ku buryo buri mwana yakwisanga mu kibuga agakora siporo bisanzwe. Bamwe twarabahezaga bakajyamo abandi bavuyemo. Noneho icyanshimishije ni uko porogaramu yaje ikanyongerera ubumenyi bw'uko nafata abana benshi nkabakoresha mu kibuga gitoya mfite n'ibikoresho bike mfite buri mwana akisanga mu gikorwa yisanzuye.
As you know, in a displacement setting, we don't have the sports equipment and infrastructure are very scarce. So before the program was introduced, we used to have a very little number of children on the playgrounds at a time. So some of them could be excluded, and some would go back home without even playing. But now, when the program was the Young Coach program came and equipped us with enough techniques and strategies to help me to help all the children of all ages, including even the disabled children, participate in sports on the same playground and as many as possible.
Okay, very interesting. Thank you. And Tamale, what was the biggest challenge going through the modules and the Young Coach program?
Ese ni ikihe kibazo wagize cyangwa nihe mbogamizi wahuye nayo urimo uriga ibi bya Young Coach?
Imbogamizi nagize ni uko nari mfite ishusho ryo kumenya ku byerekeye iby'ubutabazi bw'ibanze, nkaba ntarabonye igihe gihagije kugira ngo babe babimpuguramo.
The challenge I faced was that I was very eager to know a lot more about first aid, and we didn't get enough time to learn and practice it.
And so for our final question, how do you think football has helped you and also the community you live in?
Ese nk'ikibazo cya nyuma ni gute wibaza yuko football yagufashije mu buzima busanzwe?
Icyo football yamfashije mu buzima busanzwe, football yamfashije kwigirira icyizere muri communauté ndimo. Ikindi yamfashije kuba inkunga baduha ari nkeya, noneho football yaje inyongerera ku buryo ki mbona uburyo nakwaranje abana ku byerekeye icyo bansaba nk'umubyeyi wabo, nkaba nagenda nunganira ku mfashanyo baduha.
The football helped me to grow my self-esteem in the society, and it also helped me financially because I can now support my children. I can provide my children with all they need, all the basic needs, and even more. And it really helped me a lot.
Okay, great. Tamale, thank you so much, and Lionel, thank you also for translating for us. It was very helpful and very insightful.
Yes, and we will be collecting some Q&A also in the chat box. So if participants, if you have any questions for Tamale, at the end of the workshop, we'll have some time to ask Tamale these questions. So feel free to enter anything in the chat box. So I would love to introduce our next guest speaker, but before doing so, allow me to share this video.
Champions against all odds. 10 refugee athletes make history.
We are not only refugees, we are like everyone in the world. We can do something, we can achieve something.
Yusra, Rami, Yek, Rose, James, Angelina, Paolo, Popole, Yolande, and Jonas. They escaped war and persecution. They lost their homes, their childhoods, their families.
Estou aqui. Estou aqui no Brasil, estou participando. Graças do Olimpíada, para ele, se pode me ver na televisão para saber que o irmão dele está aqui no Brasil.
The first ever refugee Olympic team entered the 2016 Olympic Games Heroes, walking proudly under the Olympic flag. With less than a year of training, they exceeded all expectations. Winning international praise for their courage.
We'll cheer on athletes on the first ever Olympic refugee team. 10 competitors from the Congo, Ethiopia, South Sudan, and Syria who personify endurance.
Inspiring refugees around the world.
فلما طلعنا هون دمرت أحلامنا، ما كان في عندنا قدرة إنه نرجع نبني أحلام من أول جديد. فراح يعطي دافع طبعا كثير كبير.
Je vois mes frères qui sont déjà dans les JO. Je sais que c'est moi qui est là-bas, même si j'ai pas eu la chance, c'est-à-dire de participer ensemble avec eux, mais en esprit, je suis ensemble avec eux.
And inspiring a new generation of athletes.
Poxa, é muito legal, né? Ter atletas que participaram da Olimpíada. A gente vê, tira fotos com ele, pedir o autógrafo dele, é muito legal isso.
I can take this opportunity to assure you, this is the beginning of the line. We are the ambassador, and we know this project of IOC, it will change the life of other people.
They might not have won any medals, but they leave Rio winners in courage, passion, and unity. The best of the Olympic spirit.
Okay, so we were able to see a glimpse of him in that video, but it is my pleasure to introduce Jonas Kinde as our guest speaker. Jonas, originally from Ethiopia, has been living in Luxembourg since 2013. He competed in the Rio de Janeiro Olympics as part of the refugee Olympic team in the men's marathon in 2016. And he is pursuing his amazing career as a refugee athlete and working towards the next Olympics happening in Tokyo in 2021. So, Jonas, it would be great if we can start out from maybe an introduction on your background as well as your journey to Luxembourg. Can everyone hear Jonas?
No, I can't see him either, to be honest.
Okay, let me... It says offline. Let's see. So Jonas might be experiencing some technical difficulties as we don't see him online. Let me try to contact him. Philip, do you see him?
No.
Okay, maybe we can try to contact him through the platform. But in the meantime, if anyone has any questions for Tamali, please keep on placing them into the chat box so we can collect the questions. And while we try to get Jonas.
Yes, hi, now I can hear you. Sorry, what was the question?
Yes, do you want to ask a question for Tamali while we wait for Jonas to come back on?
Okay, yes. So I picked out a question here by Mohammed Ahmed. And so Tamali, he asked, how can I enhance the peace through sport?
Rero hari umuntu ushaka kubarira ikibazo ahangaha arabaje ngo ese ni gute umuntu yakongera amahoro cyangwa yasigasira umuco w'amahoro akoresheje siporo. we ni gute umuntu yasigasira umuco w'amahoro cyangwa agakemura amakimbirane muri rusange akoresheje siporo, akoresha imbaraga za siporo?
ni uko yashishikariza abandi kujya muri siporo, kuko iyo bari muri siporo bibakomeza gutekereza cyane cyangwa ngo babe bashamirana umwe ku wundi.
It's all about sensitizing. You have to sensitize the youth to participate in sports, because when they are participating in sports, they don't think about evil things or involve themselves in conflicts and altercations, but they have a common goal and a common athletic goal, if I can put it.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
So I also have a question for Tamali. Do you think by you becoming the only girl through this young coach program and becoming a young coach, that it really helps other girls to also be involved in sport activities in your community?
Ese kuba waratangiye kujya mu bintu bya siporo, warashishikariye kujya mu bintu bya siporo, ubona hari ikintu byafashije abakobwa muri community y'iwanyu, hari ikintu byabafashije kuba nabo bajya mu mikino?
Ikintu byabafashije, babonye mbigiyemo bimfitiye inyungu, hari ibintu byinshi nagiye nirinda byanshora mu nzira zitari nziza, byanshora mu biyobyabwenge cyangwa se mu zindi ngeso mbi. Nanone ikibazo ahantu kiri ni uko ababyeyi kugira ngo barekure abakobwa baze muri siporo ni ibintu bigoye cyane, ariko twaba tugikora ubukangurambaga ku babyeyi tubumvisha ko siporo ari ingenzi ku rubyiruko.
When they saw the profits I was reaping from participating in sports, everyone became aware of how sports can help them, and they started joining me. And it was a challenge before due to cultural norms for parents to let their girls participate in sports. But we have started mobilizing, and more parents are participating to our campaign, and it's reaping benefits.
Great, thank you so much for sharing that. It's really encouraging to hear.
And so Tamali, I have one more question for you, please, from a participant in the workshop, Mohammed Ahmed, and he asked, do you think the sports have an important role in local policy? So do you think that the sports have an important role in your community, and how has this changed the way that maybe the decision makers in your community have thought of sports?
Ese siporo wibaza yuko hari ikintu yaba yaragiye ihinduraho ku buryo wenda nk'amategeko akorwa cyangwa igahindura imyumvire y'ubuyobozi mu gace utuyemo, imyumvire y'ubuyobozi bufata ibyemezo? Gerageza gusubiza. Imyumvire y'ubuyobozi bufata icyemezo, kuvuga ngo uburyo ubuyobozi bufata ibyemezo, wenda nimba ibyemezo barabifataga mu buryo runaka, ese ubona kuba urubyiruko ruparticipa muri siporo, ubona hari ikintu byahindutseho?
Ikintu bishobora kuba byarahinduye ni uko iyo urubyiruko rwagiye muri siporo, tuvuge ngo nimba habaga imigambi mibi muri sosiyete runaka, urubyiruko rukajya muri siporo, muri icyo gihe ntabwo bizagaragara ko akavuyo kakiriho, bitewe n'uko bagenda kungurana ibitekerezo bakareba ibyajya mbere, akaba ari byo bakurikiza kurusha uko bajya mu zindi nzira zitari nziza bagatekereza ibyashobora guhungabanya sosiyete.
When the youth participate in sports, this prevents idleness, and it also prevents a high rate of crimes that they will be involved in, like drug abuse and others. And this also influences the policymakers in return.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Tamali. That was very insightful. And thank you, Lionel, for also translating. Thank you so much.
Thank you too.
Okay, so I think we are having
Hello again. My name is Jonas Kinde. I live in Luxembourg. I am from Ethiopia, and I'm a marathon runner from Refugee Olympic Team 2016. I live here since 2012. I am a refugee. I am political refugee, and yeah, so
okay. And
I live alone here.
okay. And you you've spoken about before about how really, you know, sport and running this marathon has helped you overcome some of the challenges that you faced in the beginning and really help you integrate into the new community that you've found. Do you think you can talk about that?
Yeah, sport helped me a lot with to integrate with the people and to get myself, to find myself, and to be fit mentally and physically. I can say sport is my family because as I live here alone, when I do my training, I feel much more better, and I'm not alone because thanks for sport, I have a lot of friends around the world, and sport is my passion. Sport is my family. Sport is my everything, I can say.
No, that's really powerful when you say, you know, sport is your family. And we also saw you and also in that video competing in the Rio de Janeiro Olympics. We would love to hear more about, you know, how it was like to compete in the Olympics as part of the Refugee Olympic team, and really why was this such an important moment for refugee communities around the world?
Yeah, well, the Refugee Olympic team was created by International Olympic Committee, as we know. I was the one who had a chance to participate as a marathon runner from the 10 athletes and presented the world refugee and world refugee crisis. It was I was really honored to be part of Refugee Olympic Team 2016, and I had the chance to think the children around the world and the millions of refugees around the world during the Olympic marathon race. Every distance, every kilometer, every minute, I was thinking about the refugees, how they walk, they run to find the peaceful place, and it was a great moment to think, especially children, refugee children around the world. And it was very special for me, even more than presenting the country. It was really a great experience, and I meet my old friends from Ethiopia during the Olympic race, and it was really nice, and I was very surprised, and my friend is too surprised because I met them in the Olympic village, and I felt like a human being, like a normal human being. I was not feeling like a refugee because I really my dream was really became true because I was dreaming to compete one day in the Olympics, in World Champions and big events. But I was not dreaming to compete to compete for a refugee Olympic team because it never existed before, and my dream came true. Thanks for International Olympic Committee. And for me, having such a great experience in the Olympic Village is a big memory for me with the world athletes in the Olympic Village eating together. I can say that it's one table, the world greatest athletes eating in one table, and including the refugee athletes. We were equal as the all nations, and also the world was standing for the refugee Olympic team, and it was it touched me really my heart during the opening ceremony when we were in the stadium. Everyone was standing for the refugee Olympic team, and yeah, it was really amazing and a huge experience for me. I don't know if I'm talking a lot.
No, and absolutely, and I think it's great to hear, but also it was such a amazing moment. I think we all saw that, and it really shed a positive light on refugees, and really saw the the athletes behind the label of refugees. So it was such a it served such a symbol of hope and solidarity. I think
Exactly.
yes, and Jonas, you are currently preparing and training to chase your dream and continue your dream towards Tokyo 2021. But yes, how is it going? And what is your next biggest dream that you're trying to accomplish?
Well, Mom, yes, I am still hoping. I was really aiming to participate for the Olympic Games 2020. Even I was in Tokyo to run the Tokyo Olympics last March to have experience before the Olympics. But unfortunately, it was postponed. Of course, health and safety is first. So I still really working hard to have that chance again and to present the refugee Olympic team for the second time. And I try to keep my performance fit. I try to stay fit with all the experience I have. It's really difficult, but I'm fighting to stay in good shape until 2021.
Yes.
Before I am planning to run half marathons and marathons. They are still canceling most of the race for the moment. No race, but I am planning to run a Rotterdam Marathon maybe in October if it will not be cancelled.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I am sure that refugee Olympic team will join the next Olympics with a great condition and shape, with a great performance. Yeah.
We're very much looking forward to this. I think Philip just wanted to ask one question from the participant, if that's okay, Jonas.
Yes, of course.
Yes. So I have a question here from Mohammed Jamil, and he asked, "How can we use sport as a communications platform?"
To really raise awareness on refugee issues as well as for displaced communities. I think that's what he means.
If I understand the question, I think sport is great material. I don't know. For myself, it helps me to integrate with local people because during my difficult situation when I was in the refugee camp, it was not allowed to work, but it was allowed by nature for running and joining the people in athletics. So for me, sport it's free for everyone, and it's the best thing to integrate with local people, especially for the refugees, as we live in a new place that we don't have family, we don't have friends, and all the cultures are different or everything. So to get in touch with the people, sport is a very important, and it helped me to have many friends around the world. In my difficult situation, I have best friends actually where I live in Luxembourg, that I can share my my ideas, and so that's I think it's very good to have friends and to stay in good shape mentally and physically. Otherwise, we don't have moral and to find ourselves. It's very important to do sports for me. I don't know if I really answered the question. If not, you can ask me again, please.
No, I think that was the question, Jonas. Thank you so much for your answer.
And I think it absolutely resonates with what we've been speaking about, the power of sports and really fostering inclusion and peace, and really empowering displaced communities. So thank you so much, Jonas, for sharing this. And I see comments saying this is really inspiring. So I'm really glad. I think the participants really appreciated and enjoyed your sharing your experience. So, wow, it's already 5:54. So we are actually out of time. But we wanted to thank Jonas and Tamali once again for joining us as guest speakers in this workshop. And thank you so much for the participants for staying until the end. If you do have any questions or if you want to find out more, always feel free to reach out to the UNHCR Sports Coordination Team, and we will be happy to share more information. So thank you so much for joining, and this will be the end of our workshop. Thank you.
No, thank you so much. Thank you. But if I can say something about UNHCR.
Yes, absolutely.
And because with UNHCR, working very hard, especially for me. They helped me a lot. I would like to say thank you for helping refugees around the world. For traveling and for the communication with the ambassadors, with the organizers, because I had a problem with traveling issue because as I have travel document, and UNHCR helped a lot for that, especially when I want to run the Tokyo Olympics last March. I mean Tokyo Marathon in March, and they did a very good communication to help me. I would like to say thank you and thanks for UNHCR.
Thank you so much, Jonas. Thank you for
Thank you.
that
Thank
kind
you.
words. Yes, and good luck on
Thank
your
you.
training. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Good luck, Jonas. Thanks, Tamale. Thanks, Megumi. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
We hope you enjoyed your second Virtual Empower workshop. Once again, we'd like to say a sincere thank you to the workshop facilitators and to you for your ongoing participation and commitment throughout our first Virtual Empower 2020. And that, ladies and gentlemen, brings us to the end of day 3. Tomorrow comes with more interesting topics and specialized speakers. Keep checking the conference agenda for any updates, and don't forget to keep using the hashtag Empower2020. Please join us in the webinar room tomorrow, and we are looking forward to seeing you again. Peace.